I want to try to explain how the triangle inequality theorem works. According to that theorem, if I take the sum of the lengths of two sides on a triangle, it has to be greater than the length of the third side of that triangle. So let's go over why this works. If I have two sides of a triangle that are 12 and 7 units long, then the third side length could be between which two numbers? So what I want to do is I want to look at a couple things. So remember that we have acute angles. Those are smaller than 90 degrees. And we have obtuse angles. Those are going to be greater than 90 degrees. And then of course you have a straight angle, which is a line, which is going to be exactly 180 degrees. Okay, so when you think about a triangle has two sides, and in between those two sides it's going to have an angle, right? And then that would be how we're creating a third side to make an actual triangle, right? Well, I want you to think here, if I have two sides, okay, two sides on a triangle, but they're making a straight angle, 180 degrees, is it even possible where I could draw a third side that would make this a triangle? So let's look at that. So I have these sides 7 and 12. Let's imagine that I put them next to each other so that they're making an acute angle. Okay, there's an acute angle. I could draw a third side right here that would create a triangle. Okay, let's say that these two sides created an obtuse angle together. Okay, well, I could still draw a third side right here that would create a triangle. But imagine what would happen if I made this angle so big that it was close to 180 degrees, okay? What if it was very, very close to 180 degrees? Could I still potentially draw a line right here to make a triangle? Yes, but it would look like a really smushed triangle, right? Well, what if I keep making that even more of an obtuse angle to the point where it becomes a straight angle? Could I create a third side that would make that into a triangle? No, right? Because if I tried, what would I do? I would just be putting something on top of it, right? It would just be a straight, flat line. It wouldn't create a triangle, okay? So that means if I were to open this up to be really, really wide, such that it creates 180 degrees, a straight line, that doesn't work. It doesn't create a triangle. So the largest range, and in fact we can't even get to a side that would be 19 units long. We could get close to 19 units. For example, what if this were 18 units, right? That would be a pretty flat looking triangle, but it could still create a triangle. But if we were to flatten it all the way out, it would be 19. So we can't do that. So 19 would not work. We have to make a side that's going to be less than 19. Okay, now what if we were to go the other way? What if we made a really small acute angle? Okay, here's an acute angle. I could make a third side. Well, what if I keep making that smaller and smaller? Could I still make a triangle? Yes, I could make a triangle. Well, what if I make it so small to all of a sudden that it's 0 degrees? It's flat, right? It's on top of each other, right? So that means if I were to make a third side, it would look something like this, and it would be completely flat. It wouldn't be a triangle, right? So here, I would have to make sure that my third side is greater than 5 units long, but it's going to have to be less than 19 units long. So how did we get those numbers 5 and 19 again? So for the 19, we took the sum, right? If I add 12 plus 7, that gives me 19. And then for the 5, we took the difference, right? So 12 minus 7 gives me 5. This is giving me an idea of what the third side length has to be between. It has to be between 5 and 19. It cannot equal 5 and it cannot equal 19, but it has to be between that range. Okay, so we could say 5 has to be, let's see, this side has to be less than, so 5 has to be less than this side. So this is a way to write that as an inequality. We could say that this side has to be greater than the 5, so it has to be bigger than 5, but it has to be less than the 19. Okay, so if I were to read this straightforward, it says 5 is less than my third side, but my third side is also going to be less than 19. Okay, so hopefully that clears up any confusion on how we can get a range for that third side. It cannot equal 5, it cannot equal 19. That means 4.8 doesn't work. 5 doesn't work. What about 5.1? Yes, because that's greater than 5. Okay. 19.1, that's too big. 19, still too big. But 18.7, that one would work, okay, because it's in that range.